Alrighty folks, I got another build at you for today, and this one is special because it is another Warlock build. Probably my least played class in the long run, but one I have fun with the most somehow, even though it's not my Titan. So, the basis for this, I will warn you, is seasonal, as one of the mods is from the artifact, and it's something that is likely not to come around again, ever again. Maybe. Hopefully. Hopefully it will. Now, many of you have seen the Aggro Scepter build, where somebody on a Revenant Hunter makes their shards count as wells. Wells give super energy, and they use Aggro Scepter overcharge 24/7. Now, this is relatively similar basis, but let me just kick off and dive straight into the loadout and show you what we're dealing with. So, right off the bat, first thing is going to be various sets of armor. Now, stat-wise, you don't need 100 intellect, but it honestly just makes it way better. Now, I do have a few intellect mods poking here and there. I think I'm at 85 or 84-ish. Relatively, it's tier 8 naturally. I made it tier 10 with assistance of some mods. But going through, I will advise the guns, they also don't really matter, but this is where the stats and the build comes into play from the name. Now, I will say this is a Stormdancer's Stormcaller build. Now, honestly, it's between either Attunement to Conduction or Attunement of the Elements. You can pick. Personally, I kind of didn't feel any difference. It's honestly just whether or not you prefer to blink during teleport, landfall, you know, whatever Arc Souls or Chain Grenades that you prefer. Now, weapons. Specifically, there's nothing really particular there, but the ones that I went with that got the boom boom from this is going to be 3 weapons that have Demolitionist. Now, it can be any set of 3 weapons that have Demolitionist. This is honestly a personal preference that I make for this build, but I managed to get a Hothead Adept that had Demolitionist and Vorpal, as well as I'm running Salvagers with Demolitionist and Chain Reaction for lots of killing power, and I managed to get a decent Horror Story with Killing Wind and Demolitionist from, you know, Festival of the Lost. This is actually a pretty solid auto rifle, PvE, and I think PvP. I haven't used it there. Now, of course, the main exotic that we're taking advantage of is Stormdancer's Brace. Now, what this does, newly buffed this season, each target you defeat with Stormtrance increases the damage you deal, and a new thing to this season, super energy is refunded. Now, it is capped out at half, and considering the old power of old restorative exotics, where they gave you almost 75 to 80% of it back, in the best of worlds, it is only capped at half, which a lot of people are ashamed of, because that's not, you know, a full super. But I'm here to tell you that that half is just plenty freaking fine. Now, to combine it with a few mods, now, in terms of the artifact, there's not many that you really need to take advantage of throughout this. You might be able to take auto rifle loader if you're using an auto rifle, or, you know, so a few other things. But the important thing is this one in the last column, Well of Potency. Now, this is a Elemental Well mod. I will now stress this is a Elemental Well build, not Charged with Life, not Warmind Cell. Now, you can also run it with Particle Deconstruction if you so choose, as these do not go in the same slot, but at the same time, you are only using 2 of your, two of your artifacts in the final column. So you won't have Focusing Lens, you might not have Thermoclastic Blooming, or Pyretic Embrace, if these are so your options. Now, I'm going to start going through the armors and telling you how each of these mods make this better. Now, starting from the top, this one's an easy one that anyone can have, Elemental Light. Now, I will stress, I don't think any of these mods are exactly hard to get or old season. A lot of you should have these automatically, and or you should be able to go and buy them at the appropriate kiosks from the past couple of seasons that have been throughout year 4. Now, starting off Elemental Light, it makes it so that picking up an Elemental Well or defeating combatants with your super spawns Elemental Wells matching your subclass energy type. Now, I will stress a lot of this is going to be Arc Wells, so this might not really chain to other shards like builds and some other things. It's hard to say. Stormdancers really makes this well, but you might be able to do this in other subclasses depending on how you focus it. Now, going to one more down, Elemental Ordnance. This makes it so that grenades can spawn Elemental Wells matching your subclass type. And on Stormdancers themselves, Melee Well Maker, which makes it so that powered melee final blows spawn Elemental Wells matching your subclass type. Now, on my boots as well, I have Well of Potency shoved in there. That basically makes it so that pick up and matching Elemental Wells, specifically a matching Elemental Well, which means it has to be an Arc Well, grants a little bit enhanced super energy. As well, this does stack So if you want to, you can put more than one. And if you're not sure, you can easily trade one of the super wells or maybe for a mod that makes it so that they stack. I think that is a stasis mod. But this is a crazy loadout, and let me just honestly play the video in the background for you. This well makes it so that you can pump out supers so freaking quick. Now, as you can see in the background, obviously it has to deal with a lot of ability spam. There's no really holding on to any of your abilities, but honestly, you weren't holding on to any of your abilities with the Aggroceptor builds that I've been seeing go around. Now, I don't need to explain much. Your melee makes wells, your grenade makes wells, and even your super makes wells. So the only tip I would have running this setup build is honestly, if you're running Stormcaller, don't rush in and still zap everything. If you can, keep as much distance from the wells you make during super, as once you end the super, you will actually, be able to pick up those wells and supercharge your super bar. Now, this leads to getting your well back so quickly that you're almost able to use it for every wave of adds in several instances, like here in the Devil's Lair deactivating the shield. Most players would maybe use it at the start and maybe get it just before the end, depending on how much they were killing and how much their intellect is up, how many, super generation abilities they have. But this one is so gnarly that in another instance of the Hollowed Lair on a normal difficulty, I was able to get my abilities back to back between waves. Just in an instance, Fanatic disappears, gives me a wave of enemies. I mow down what I can, I get enough kills, I spawn more wells, he grabs the tether, we do some damage, he grabs the tether, does some damage, and then disappears. That's typically, in a perfect world scenario, only 40 seconds between when the last wave of adds comes and when the Fanatic disappears again. I managed to have my super ready for the next wave of adds almost every single time. And now this is a literal example of how many times. I'm going to leave this playing full stop. I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to let you watch how often this super can actually come back. And the Ascendant Amplitude is so handy because it makes it so you can just mow down. Even if Stormcaller was powerful enough, Storm Dancers is just a cherry on top. And honestly, the super refund gave this exotic perfect opportunity to swing back into the meta. It was never that great. The damage wasn't enough to be a meta killer, but at the same time, now it just might be. With that, my name is Matt Scorpion, and I will see you in the next video.
Apex Prime cast a great shadow over our city,